Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jamuna Tiravanachari Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari. That's not what I sang. I sang Kunja Bihari only once, not twice. You're off in a dreamland somewhere. But very nice singing, by the way. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivaya ISKCON Asto Tarasara Śrīmad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Kvantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki Nitai Gora Premanandi Smara Bhaktivedanta Swami Chanamane Namaste Saraswati Guru Vani Pichani Session Vari Pasha Name Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudev. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'm better off with the light. Where's the light gone? You know where the light is? Just makes it easier for me to read, and especially I've only got one eye fixed up and the other eye's different, so things are a bit wobbly. Turn it. Yeah, that's good. I've discovered this is the bright one. This is, ooh, look at that. That's, ooh. Yeah, that's beautiful. Look at that. Okay, so we're reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam today, Canto 8. What is it? It's the... hey, look at that. They don't have the canto heading in this. Oh, there it is. Withdrawal of the cosmic creation. That's what we want. Chapter number 6. The demigods and demons declare a truce. Text number 10. Tvayagra asit, tvayimadya asit, tvayanta asid idam atmatantre. Tvamadiranto jagatosya madhyam. Gatasya mritsneva para parasmat. Tvayagra asit, tvayimadya asit, tvayanta asit idamatmatantre. Tvamadiranto jagatosya madhyam. Ghatasya mritsneva para parasmat. Tvayagra asit, tvayimadya asit, tvayantat asit idamatmatantre. Tvamadiranto jagatosya madhyam. Ghatasya mritsneva para parasmat. Tvayanta asididam atmatantre. Tvamadiranto jagatosya madhyam. Ghatasya mrichneva para parasmat. Ladies. Tvaya grasid, tvaya madhyasid. Tvayanta asididam atmatantre. Tvamadiranto jagadasya madhyam. Gatasya mrichneva para parasmat. Tvaya grasid, tvaya madhyasid. Tvayanta asididam atmatantre. Tvamadiranto jagatosya madhyam. Gatasya mrichneva para parasmat. Twayi, unto you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Agre, in the beginning. Asit, there was. Twayi, unto you. Madhye, in the middle. Asit, there was. Twayi, unto you. Ante, in the end. Asit, there was. Idam, all of this cosmic manifestation. Atmatantre, fully under your control. Tvam, your lordship. Adi, beginning. Antaha, end. Jagataha, of the cosmic manifestation. Asya, of this. Madhyam, middle. Ghatasya, of an earthen pot. Mrichna iva, like the earth. Paraha, transcendental. Parasmat, because of being the chief. My dear Lord, who are always fully independent, this entire cosmic manifestation arises from you, rests upon you, and ends in you. Your Lordship is the beginning, sustenance, and end of everything, like the earth, which is the cause of an earthen pot, which supports the pot, and to which the pot, when broken, finally returns. Text number 11, Tvam Mayayatmas Rayaya Svayedam Nirmaya Vishvam Tadu Anupravishtaha Pasyanti Yukta Manasa Manishino Manishino Guna Vyavayepya Gunam Vipaschitaha. O Supreme, you are independent in yourself and do not take help from others. Through your own potency, you create this cosmic manifestation and enter into it. Those who are advanced in Krishna consciousness, who are fully in knowledge of the authoritative Shastra and who, through the practice of Bhakti Yoga, are cleansed of all material contamination, can see with clear minds that although you exist within the transformations of the material qualities, your presence is untouched by these qualities. Purport. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 10, Maya Yakshena Prakriti Suyate Sachara Charam Hetuna Neva hetu nanena kuntaya jagat viparivartate. This material nature, working under my direction, O son of Kunti, is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. The material energy creates, maintains, and devastates the entire cosmic manifestation because of directions given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who enters this universe as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, but is untouched by the material qualities. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord refers to Maya, the external energy which creates this material world, as Mama Maya, my energy. Because this energy works under the full control of the Lord, my energy, because this energy works under the full control of the Lord. These facts can be realized only by those who are well versed in Vedic knowledge and advanced in Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yakripa Tamam Bande Shri Gurum Dinatavinam. So in verse number 10, we're getting an analogy where the creation of the material world is likened to the creation of an earthen pot, where the earthen pot comes out of the earth, rests on the earth, and then is absorbed within the earth on its demise. Which is a very simple example, easily understood, of how the Lord is everything, ultimately everything. This is described in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, in the this is an interesting principle of how the energy and the energetic are one. Right? The energy and the energetic. Energetic means the source of the energy. Right? The owner of the energy, the proprietor. So that's the foundation of everything is the Lord. And the earthen pot is an expansion, or is a part of that energy coming from the Lord, and of course goes back to that, to the original source. And so the pot is the energy, if you like. The earth is the energetic. Can be compared. There are obviously some it's as an analogy, it is limited, but there is enough similarity to understand this point. That the earthen pot comes from the earth and then eventually goes back into the earth. So similarly, the energies of the Lord come from Him and in due course of time can be absorbed within Him. And so as a consequence, non-different. Now the next verse is an expansion of that concept. And it describes how even though, and it describes how the Lord Himself may enter into the material realm. Right? But even though He may enter into the material world, because the material creation is part of His energy, and He is the controller of that energy. When He creates the material creation, which is ultimately an expansion of Himself, part of His pastimes actually, it's described in the Brahma Samhita, how the creation of the material worlds actually part of Krishna's pastimes. Of course, part of that pastime is that He places the living entities into the material realm and then puts them into bewilderment, right? Although actually He doesn't do it. It's His energy, right? Keep in mind, it's His energy. So, the first statement here is, you're independent in yourself. Right? And do not take help from others. So this is important, that He's independent. Through your own potency you create this cosmic manifestation and enter into it. Right? So He actually, the material creation is created by the material energy, by the Maya Shakti, the Maha Maya Shakti puts us all into illusion ultimately. There's the Yoga Maya Shakti, which is the internal spiritual energy. And then there's the Maha Maya Shakti, or, the material energy, basically. So, the Lord, through the agency of the material energy, creates the material realm, but even though He enters into it and appears to be part of the material world, He's not influenced by it. This is very important and difficult to understand, because sometimes He behaves just like an ordinary human being. So it's hard to distinguish between the activities of the Lord which are extraordinary and the activities of the Lord which are just ordinary. Right? Especially for those who don't have the transcendental vision to see the spiritual potency manifest in the Lord's activities. Just like Narada Muni went to Krishna's residences in Dwarka. Was it Dwarka? Yeah, in Dwarka. And he saw activities going on in the morning, he saw activities going on in the midday, saw activities going on in the evening, all at the same time. Well, not only that, he saw Krishna present in how many residences? 16,108. So, woo! That is extraordinary. Right? But Narada Muni had that was endowed with the Shakti, or the potency, the power to see those transcendental pastimes of Krishna. Where time, Krishna is not bound by time, right? Which is a feature of the material energy. Right? In the descriptions, in the illustrations of Durga, as the personification of material energy, one of the decorations that she's adorned with is a snake, right? And what does a snake represent? Kala, time. Yeah. And the snake of time eats us all up. Something to look forward to, right? We're all being eaten. We're all being eaten by the snake of time, but especially when we're in youth and in middle age, we don't notice it, right? Especially in youth. Then all of a sudden we realise, oh, what happened? What happened to my youth? So, those who are advanced, what's that? Yukta manasa pasyanti yukta manasa manishino. Those who are yukta here means, in the word for word, yukta means persons in touch with you. So this is a devotee, right? Those who are advanced are those who are in touch with Krishna, those who are engaged in devotional service, right? And they can see, like Narada Muni is a perfect example, can see the transcendental qualities and the transcendental nature of Krishna, and how Krishna's activities, even though he appears in the material world, he's not influenced by the Mahamaya. No, what did I say before? Yoga Maya. No, Mahamaya. That's right. He's not influenced by Mahamaya. His activities are under the influence of Yoga Maya, even if he appears in the material world. It's not the same. In Tamal Krishna Maharaj's Brahma Samhita classes, he makes the mention of the American Embassy in New Delhi. And if you go to the Indian, not the Indian, there's no Indian Embassy in New Delhi. It's only in other countries. He makes a point, he says, if you go to the American Embassy in New Delhi, the paper cups are made in America, the water comes from America, he said everything. And even the laws, if you go into the American Embassy here in Australia, you then become under the jurisdiction of American law, not Australian law. Huh? So, for all intents and purposes, it's America. Even though it might be in Australia or it might be in India or wherever it might be, it's America. So similarly also, when Krishna appears in Vrindavan, or he appears in Mayapur, or he appears in any of the dhams where he performs his pastimes, that location is not the material world. And as we know, Prabhupada even famously said here, this is not Melbourne, this is Vrindavan, right? So, where Krishna appears and where devotional service is performed, it's not the material world, it's the spiritual world. That's pretty... And that can be seen, as is mentioned here, pasyanti means to see, they see, yuktaha, yuktaha means those who are engaged pretty much in devotional service, effectively. Manasa, by an elevated mind. Manishinaha, or manishino, in the verse. People with advanced consciousness. This is why we associate with the devotees. You hang out with the drunks in the park, what do you become? What's that? Drunk. Yeah, drunk. But if you hang out with the devotees, what do you become? You become a devotee. Yeah. So who do we hang out with? Devotees. Yeah. And so in the translation, those who are advanced in Krishna consciousness, who are fully in knowledge of the authoritative Shastra. Now, I don't know whether that's actually in the word for word. Let's have a look. It's not. Oh, no, yes it is. Vipaschitaha. Vipaschitaha is translated as those who are fully aware of the truth of Shastra. And who through the practice of bhakti yoga are cleansed of all material contamination, can see with clear minds. So there's a couple of interesting points here. The first one is that Krishna appears in the material world, but he's not part of the material world. And the second one is that the devotees who are engaged in devotional service and who understand the Shastra, and that's one of the characteristics of a devotee, is that they understand Shastra. What's that verse? Yasya deve Prabhaktit tasya devo. Can't remember exactly the Sanskrit. I can't remember the Sanskrit. But the translation or the purport is the one who has faith in Krishna and in the spiritual master and who engages in Krishna service, then automatically the purport of Shastra is revealed to them. Right? And we were talking about understanding all knowledge yesterday. But that doesn't mean, having a PhD in biomedical science automatically is accrued to a devotee. No, that's not considered learning or knowledge. That's considered avidya. Whereas vidya means understanding spiritual subject matter. And, the relationship between the material and spiritual, which is what's being described here by the demigods, offering their prayers to the Lord. So very interesting. And Prabhupada then illustrates this point by quoting Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, text 10. Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sa characharam hetunanena kunteya jagad viparivartate. This material nature working under my direction. And Prabhupada makes a point here. This is Krishna's energy. The material energy is Krishna's energy. Mayadhyakshena prakriti. And what's it doing? Suyate sacharacharam. It's creating the bodies, if you like, of the living entities who are moving and the living entities who are not moving. Right? Chara, achara means moving and not moving. And this is going on under my direction. It's going on under Krishna's direction, yet Krishna actually doesn't have anything to do with it. It's all being controlled by Durga, right? The material energy, the personification of the material energy. She keeps everybody under control. She's the regulatrix. Regulatrix. What does regulatrix mean? Here's a bit of this word is not commonly used. Regulatrix. What does that mean? Anybody got an idea? Okay. This is the feminine use of the word. Regulatrix. This is a key. What's the masculine form of regulatrix? Think about it. Regulator, yes. We don't see this, you don't see this very much. You don't see the use of the word regulatrix. Yeah, you just don't see it. You've probably never heard of it before, right? But it's in the Brahma Samhita. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur uses the word. And in Latin, for example, and French, there are genders in terms of describing a word, whether it's masculine or feminine, right? So regulatrix is just the feminine of regulator. So that means the controller of the material energy, the regulatrix, is a woman. And her name, of course, is Durga. Right? And it's interesting, in the description, I was reading it this morning, in the description of the Brahma Samhita, it describes how there are 20 activities that accompany Durga, and those activities are meant to be performed by the living entities for the dispelling of vices. Well, very interesting. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains how the material energy, Durga, and Durga means fortress or prison house, right? So the living entities, we're placed into the material energy by a transcendental process, actually, by the glance of Lord Vishnu, and the personification of that glance is Lord Shiva. And the living entities are bound up in this prison house under the supervision of Durga. And Durga acts, as is mentioned here, Maya Yakshena Prakriti. The material energy is Krishna's energy. And she acts under his supervision, on his orders. Right? Sometimes it's described that Maya's activities is not exactly pleasant, right? It's not pleasant to have to be the regulatrix, but that's her service. And it's done for the rectification of the living entities. To remind them, to wake them up. To wake them up to the fact that we are servants of Krishna, and we'll only be happy when we're engaged in our constitutional position as servants, not as controllers. Although it's interesting, even as servants, we're still given some control, right? We're part and parcel of Krishna. Mamai vamsa jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha. We have some of the characteristics of God, and that desire or that ability to control is present within us, but manashashtan indriyani, we're struggling with the mind and the senses, and bewildered by this sense of false identification with the material energy and a false sense of enjoyment in the material world. But after lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes of suffering, the living entity comes to a conclusion. I don't think this is right. There's something going on here that, but Nishananda Saraswati Thakur uses the word, the living entity remarks that there's another purpose. You know, they come to the conclusion, they come to the realization that this is not right. I need to rectify my way of action, my way of being. And in that state of being or consciousness, that's when the devotees get an opportunity to associate, or the living entity gets an opportunity to associate with the devotees, where that observation of things aren't right, that there must be some other way, there must be a proper way of doing things. When a living entity comes to that conclusion, that's when they get the opportunity to associate with devotees. So the material energy is functioning under Krishna's supervision. When he enters into it, he's not part of the material world. He remains aloof and still in charge. Even though it appears that he's in the material world, he's not. And that material energy is creating the bodies, if you like, as a consequence of the karma of the previous actions of the living entity, under the influence of the time factor, that snake, right? Represented by the snake. And we're being devoured, if you like, by the time factor as a consequence of our previous actions. And so, as a consequence, we suffer. But if we come to the realization that this is suffering, I don't like it, I want to get out, then we get an opportunity to associate with the devotees, if we're lucky, if we're fortunate. And all of this is taking place under the supervision of Krishna. Prabhupada says here, my energy, it is known as Mama Maya, my energy, because this energy works under the full control of the Lord. And then Prabhupada makes this point. These facts can be realized only by those who are well versed in Vedic knowledge and advanced in Krishna consciousness. So, one has to come to the realization that, you know, ultimately we're the engineer of our own karma. And it comes about as a result of desire. And after many lifetimes of struggle, one comes to the realization that this is not the right place to be. And then in the association of the devotees gets an opportunity to follow the process of bhakti, to study the Shastra, to engage in activities that are elevating, not entangling. Chant Hare Krishna, hear the Bhagavatam, render devotional service. And so the activities of a devotee are no longer producing karma, but are liberating, because there's no reaction to devotional service, because it's not material, it's not motivated by material desires. Although we can perform devotional service with some tinge of materialistic benefit, if you like, but that's not high class devotional service. The proper quality of devotional service is performed when one performs those activities for the pleasure of the spiritual master or for the pleasure of Krishna, without personal consideration. Right? Like, for example, when we go into the kitchen with the idea that we're going to get the Mangalati sweets, it's not very good. That's personal motivation. Right? But if we go into the kitchen to clean the Mangalati sweets plate, and then we take the prasadam upstairs for the benefit of all of the devotees, that's pleasing to Krishna. Sometimes we see devotees go in the kitchen and they're just walking in there and they don't have any service, they're just walking around checking things out. What's for breakfast? What's for dinner? What's for lunch? Not good, actually. Lowers the quality of devotional service in the temple, frankly. Right? Oop. Here. Whip into the paraphernalia room, there's a mop in there. Quick. Oh, well, you don't have to be quick now. It's spilt on the floor. So, motivation is very important as an element of devotional service. And so therefore Rupa Goswami describes Anya Bilashita Shunyam, where devotional service is performed without personal motivation. Gana Karma Anavritam means not covered by devotional service or activities, not covered by any motivation for personal benefit or for gaining knowledge even. But rather it's done with the mood of service. Very interesting. And sometimes we're not even aware of our personal motivations. We realise them later on. Ooh, I did that because I had some personal interest. And so therefore, devotional service has to be performed in concordance with the Vedic teachings, in accordance with the Shastra. Because the Shastra gives us the guidelines by which we should perform devotional service. What is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita? Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatrika Vidhi Vina, without reference to the rules and regulations that are described within the Shruti and the Smriti, is a utpat, disturbance. Utpat jaiva kalpate. Yeah. Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatrika Vidhi Vina Utpat jaiva. Yeah, I've forgotten that last bit. And I used to be able to just recite that and not even think about it. Oh dear me. Anyway, at least I haven't forgotten the purport or the translation. Yeah, so very interesting, that to be fully connected with Krishna, this yukta manasa, and to be manishano, an advanced devotee, one has to be cognizant of pure devotional service and motivated devotional service. And Rupa Goswami teaches us that the highest And that which will bring us to the level of advancement that's required to understand these principles needs to be unmotivated. And so in that way, just as Krishna is present in the material world and untouched by the material world, so similarly, a devotee who follows the process of bhakti with reference to the Shastra, to the rule, to the Shruti and the Smriti and the Pancharatra, and is performing devotional service without that motivation, but purely for the pleasure of the spiritual master and ultimately for Krishna, then they'll be elevated to that topmost position of realizing Krishna's transcendental nature and also being elevated into that same transcendental position themselves. The potency of bhakti gives us that opportunity. So, very important that we associate with the devotees, that we perform devotional service in the association of the devotees, that we perform devotional service in consideration of the rules and regulations of Shastra. Because the tendency, what can happen, or what we see even in ISKCON, we see devotees think, I'm a devotee, I don't need to follow rules and regulations, I'm transcendental. Right? But then in the process, do aparads, do offensive. And some of the aparads can be seva aparads, which in and of themselves fairly minor, but an accumulation of them can be more major and restrict a person's advancement. So we have to be careful of becoming too, and Rupa Goswami warns us he warns us, and how does he warn us? What's the first word? Utsahan nischayadaryat tat tat kama pravartanat. What's next? No, it's not vinasyati, it's pranasyati for the first verse. What's the second verse then? Achahara prayasascha prajalpa niyamagraha. Right? Either being too attached, and this is an interesting one, too attached to the rules and regulations or not following them at all. Right? Yeah, very interesting. Niyamagraha. It's a subtle one. Right? And especially we have the rules and regulations of deity worship, right? That we should follow strictly. Right? But at the same time there's still a bit of flex. Like, for example, it's mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion that if a devotee visits you while you're doing your puja, right, you can stop your puja and greet the devotee. It's pleasing to Krishna, so Krishna won't mind, right? But if we stop our puja just for some whimsical idea that we get, that's an offence and can stifle our devotional service. And so Rupa Goswami recommends, achahara, what's that? Too much eating or over-collecting. Prayasas, over-endeavour for mundane things that are difficult to achieve. Achahara, prajalpa. What's prajalpa? Anybody know what prajalpa is? Huh? Gossip. Yeah, too much talking about mundane things, right? And then Niyamagraha, which is a double, described as one, but it's a double. Not following the rules and regulations, or too much following the rules and regulations. That's an interesting one. So, Jana Sangha, Chalolyam Cha, Bhakti, what is it? Pranasyati, Vinasyati, destroys, destroys bhakti. Shadbir, Bhakti, Vinasyati. So those 6 items, if we need to learn to avoid those 6 items so that our devotional service remains intact. You know, the Nectar of Instruction is a very interesting book because it gives us information on how to water, effectively, how to water the seed of bhakti so that it flourishes and grows. And you know, there are positive things that one needs to do, but there's also negative prohibitions, things that need to be avoided. And these things need to be adhered to fairly, not fairly, they need to be adhered to strictly in order for one to make progress and remain transcendental. Okay, I might finish here. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Where's the microphone? Who's got the microphone? Slowly, for my ears. It's not working? No, just after your brother's been banging it and playing with it, I'm not surprised it's not working. Very well.
You had mentioned how Lord Krishna, he is the original, and Lord Krishna are all his expansions after him.
I didn't mention that, but that's true, yes.
So I'd like to ask, was there ever a time when only Krishna was there and then he expanded into more? Or if so, then we also hear lectures that Krishna's expansion like Bhagavan, they're all eternal and they were always there. So how do we understand?
If we're looking at Krishna's appearance and pastimes and disappearance, and the fact that he has parents and a brother and a sister, and there's a chronology, right, of their birth and passing away, it appears as if they have a beginning, a middle and an end, right? But the Shastra teaches us that Krishna is doing this all the time, all over, everywhere, and at all times, pretty much, right? And so then we discover that actually Krishna's activities are not like the ordinary activities of a conditioned living entity who's forced to, we don't get a choice of mum and dad, right? We're stuck with them, right? But Krishna arranges everything so his appearance is perfect and he's always with his friends, and it's not to say that Krishna doesn't have any enemies, because that, in the spiritual world, Krishna doesn't have any enemies, right? But in order to exercise his chivalrous character qualities, He needs to have some enemies in the material world to exercise that characteristic. But what we discover is that Krishna, even though he goes through these apparent changes that are common to all of the materialistic or all of the conditioned souls, actually his activities are transcendental. What is it? Janma kama chame divyam, right? So when we hear the description, and in the Shastra, when we hear from the devotees how Krishna's activities are extraordinary, then we start to appreciate the transcendental nature that Krishna reveals in his pastimes, and which make him extraordinary. So in order to facilitate the manifestation of the pastimes, he chooses a mother and a father and a family within which to appear. But that's by his choice. And so it appears, it looks like, but it is not activities of the material world, but rather it's how Krishna and Yoga Maya, the spiritual energy, creates the circumstances and the environment within which Krishna can appear and reveal his transcendental qualities. Right? So from the Shastra we understand Krishna and Balarama are eternal, right? And so there's no birth or death for them, just as there's no birth or death for the living entity. But unlike the living entity who's forced to take birth because of karma, right, Krishna chooses. You know, when we hear in the Krishna book, when the demigods went to Svetadweep and Lord Brahma prayed on behalf of Bhumi, right? And then the Lord revealed, I'll appear to I'll sort everything out, don't worry. But then there's a description of Krishna telling the various demigods, okay, I now want you to appear and be part of my pastimes, right? And of course the demigods are really happy, okay, yep. And that's interesting, isn't it? They're saying, yep, okay, I'll go into the material world with you, right? To perform these pastimes. So when we get that broader picture, then we understand, we can appreciate. Krishna's choosing to manifest his pastimes and his activities for a purpose, many purposes actually, right? Paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya chaduskritam. So to please the devotees, the residents of Vrindavan, the demigods, Bhumi, right? Many purposes he has. And ancillary to that, vinasaya chaduskritam, kill a few demons as well. So very multifarious, is that right? Many activities to be performed by the Lord, and all of them transcendental. He's always engaged in his blissful, transcendental pastimes. So how do we understand that? They are what? Yes. Yeah. But how do you understand that? How do you get that understanding? I'll show you. Huh? Chant Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. That's one way. We hear the Bhagavad, we hear the descriptions. we honour prasadam. That purifies the consciousness, so we're able to appreciate these things. Yeah. Good question. Thank you. Anybody else? Any other thoughts? Okay. Time to go to school, huh? Hare Krishna. Gandharaj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,